Welcome to the AT Parenting Survival Podcast, where you get help and guidance through the chaos of parenting a child with anxiety or OCD. This show is for educational purposes and is not intended to replace the guidance of a qualified professional. Here's your host, child therapist, Natasha Daniels.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the AT Parenting Survival Podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about another movie. We just had a podcast episode on a movie. I'll talk about that in a second. But I want to talk about how to use Inside Out 2 as a therapy tool to help your child, teen, or even maybe young adults' anxiety or OCD. I really feel like it's universal. And I want to talk about how the movie can help normalize and help people with anxiety or OCD. But then I also want to talk about specific creative ways you can use the movie to interject that into your child's journey with anxiety or OCD. But before we get started, a couple of announcements. I would like to thank NoCD for sponsoring this episode. NoCD offers affordable, effective, convenient therapy, and they are available in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. And you can schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if NoCD is the right fit for you and your child. Just go to treatmyocd.com. That's treatmyocd.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. And NoCD is doing such a great service of disseminating information about OCD and providing affordable, accessible therapy globally to people who struggle. And so I'm so thankful that we finally have a provider like that. All right, I also want to let you know that my free series, Self-Care for Parents Who Are Raising Kids with Anxiety or OCD, starts next week. And if you haven't registered, it's not too late. In fact, it's not too late until the doors close and the series is over, because the 3 videos in the series are on demand, which means you can watch them, listen to them at any time while the series is going on. The series starts July 25th, 2024. It ends... Is that August? Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar because I'm recording this in June, so I am way off. It ends August 2nd, 2024. So if you're listening to this anytime in between, before August 2nd, feel free to register. We're going to be walking you through your mindset, the things that show up in your thoughts, your body, your feelings around your child's anxiety or OCD, your own triggers, your own history. We're going to talk about de-escalation and how you support yourself while helping your child. Some clues to feeling burnt out, some clues that you may not even be aware exist. We will kind of assess your support group, what is helpful, what is not helpful, and how to connect you to helpful people. And we will give you the tools on how to be able to be an anchor for your child by supporting yourself. So a lot of good stuff in there. It's 3 on-demand videos, and then I always do a live component to my series, because I do my series, I have 2 different free series, and I do both of them twice a year. So I do 4 free series per year. And when I'm doing them, I pour my heart and soul into them. I mean, I'm like showing up big time, so that the live component is actually pretty cool too, to the point where I do have so many parents who join my series every single time I do them because they find them valuable. Even though the videos are the same, the live classes, it's a different dialogue because it's live. We're having different discussions. And so you do not need to be on Facebook. In the past, this would all be streamed on Facebook. Now we stream it directly onto the series website, the live classes. We have 3 live classes that are bonus classes to the videos, which you don't have to watch, but they're bonus. And you can actually watch the replays of those as well. We do stream them, I think, on Facebook still, if you like Facebook and that's convenient. But we definitely have our own website that you can just get everything from. So join us at atparentingsurvivalseries.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes for that as well, but it's atparentingsurvivalseries.com. And I look forward to getting to know you better and seeing you over there. Okay, so let's talk about Inside Out 2. Now, I loved Inside Out. I thought it was phenomenal back when that came out. How long ago was that? the magic of pausing my podcast so I could like have the answers to my own questions. That was 2015. So that was 9 years ago. Isn't that interesting? Wow. That took a long time to come out with part 2. But I remember when Inside Out came out, how much us therapists loved it and used it as analogies in our therapy sessions. And this Inside Out goes one step further. It addresses so many more issues. It introduces characters like anxiety, which I love. I wish they introduced a character called OCD. It would be great if they did like Inside Out Mental Health Edition, and we could see like depression and anxiety and OCD and ADHD. That would be amazing, but I don't think that will ever happen. Maybe somebody could create that. That would be very cool. Probably copyright issues. But I want to talk today about how we can take this beautiful framework that Inside Out 2 has given us and kind of supercharge it and use it as a tool in our kids' journey with anxiety or OCD. So I want to talk first, and hopefully you've seen it. I'm recording this on June 16th, the weekend that it actually came out. I saw it yesterday with my kids, and this podcast episode is actually not going to come out for another month. Yeah, literally a month. And so I think actually at first I was like, oh man, I've batched way too many podcast episodes and this one's going to be irrelevant by the time it comes out. But then I'm thinking, as I'm actually just recording this, that it might give people an opportunity to watch this. Not everybody watches it the first weekend it comes out. I was super excited about it. And my kids were actually excited about it. So we were anxious to see it right away. But hopefully more of you have seen it so that you know what I'm going to be talking about. But even if you haven't, you might find this still helpful in general terms. I do feel like Inside Out 2 really helped normalize anxiety. And I think that we can take that a step further and use anxiety, that character of anxiety, and incorporate OCD as well. So the film does a great job of normalizing feelings, of separating emotions from the person and the person's core beliefs, and also how the emotions can impact the core beliefs. It's like really interesting that they did that. I didn't realize they were going to go that deep in core beliefs. I thought that was actually really interesting. It also helped personify anxiety and OCD, which, I'm a huge proponent of, and most anxiety and OCD therapists are a huge proponent of personifying anxiety and OCD and other struggles so that we can see them as separate from the person and who they are. And Inside Out 2 does a really good job of visualizing that, of really showing that inside the child's mind. And I'm not going to really, if you haven't seen the movie, just go see the movie. I'm not going to really go through it, but having all these characters and all these different feelings can be really helpful. So is it a great thing for your child to watch? Absolutely. I did an episode on Turtles All the Way Down, episode 373, 2 episodes ago. This is episode 375, so episode before last. If you want to listen to that one, Turtles All the Way Down, you can just go to my website at atparentingsurvival.com and scroll to the bottom and just type in 373, and that episode will pop up for you. It's the easiest way to get to the episodes that I refer to. And in that podcast episode, I do talk about how I'm on the fence about showing that to certain kids. And I go in depth about why and how I think it's phenomenal for parents to see. But that was not a tool that's going to supercharge ERP therapy. And I wish it was. I really wish that there was a bigger emphasis on how exposure therapy helped her get out of her thought spirals, but it doesn't. Really, the film is really great at educating people on the struggles of OCD, but it's not a tool in the way that this movie is. This movie is a tool. It's an uplifting tool, and it's something that I think therapists and parents alike can use. It's something I highly recommend kids watch. There is a scene where the girl, so you're following a girl and you're inside her mind. That's like the whole premise of the story for those of you that haven't seen it and don't know what Inside Out is about. And she does have an anxiety attack at one point. And I feel like they do a really good job of showing what that looks like. And it was very accurate. Like a lot of times when I watch movies that are trying to emulate mental health issues, I find myself feeling squeamish, like, oh, they're not quite nailing it. Or, oh my gosh, they're like kind of spreading this information or this portrayal that's not accurate, and it really upsets me. And honestly, I felt that a little bit with Turtles All the Way Down because of, they call it an anxiety disorder. That bothered me. Little things bothered me. They never said it was OCD. That bothered me. But 99% of it was positive. There was literally nothing in this movie that rubbed me the wrong way or I felt like was not portrayed in an accurate way. Now, my daughter, actually, I saw it with all... No, I didn't. My son did not see it. That's unfortunate. I'm going to have to make him see it now that I think about it. He did not come with us. Man, we're going to have to rent it. But my two daughters came with me. So my 20-year-old and my 12-year-old. And it's interesting because both of them have had anxiety attacks. My oldest had panic attacks, so they would come out of nowhere. They were not triggered. My youngest has anxiety attacks, so they're environmentally triggered by a fear or an anxiety that she has. But the end result is the same. It's the same symptoms. And neither of them felt triggered by the scene with the character having her own anxiety attack. And so I don't feel like it's overwhelming in that way. It didn't make me anxious, and I've had panic attacks as well. So they're just portraying her feeling anxious and her heart is beating and she's having a hard time breathing, that kind of stuff. So, and interestingly, the girl is trying to calm down and she touches the bench. And my 12-year-old whispers to me, grounding, she's grounding. They incorporated these therapeutic skills in the characters. You can see them using therapeutic skills. And so that can actually be really nice to point out to your kids. Oh, she's having an anxiety attack. And look, she's touching the bench and she's grounding herself. She's like putting herself back in reality. She's feeling the texture of the bench. That's helpful for her. And so getting them to see these skills in action can be really, really helpful. After the break, I want to talk about how we can take this one step further. So what are some concrete things that you can do to, go take this movie off the stage and into your world, into your therapeutic world, and into your dialogue and your skills with your child with anxiety or OCD. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, and I will talk about that.
It's time we put help directly in our kids' hands. Introducing Crushing OCD course for kids and teens.
It was way more helpful than all the other therapy we've ever done because we didn't really know what to do. So we weren't really doing it before. So the course helped to figure out what the exposures are and how to do them.
We're not in therapy and find it really hard to find an ERP trained therapist here. So we're currently with the public health service, but again, they don't seem to be trained in ERP. It's filled that gap that we don't have that was needed.
This was really well timed for us to use between therapists and to help us get off to a good start with this new practice.
It was easy to use. I was able to do it from my phone or also on the computer.
There's different ages, so there were younger kids, there were teenagers, and so that was really nice too, to have a variety of ages where it wasn't just geared towards younger kids or older kids. It was a nice variety.
It's helpful for our kids to hear it from this third party as opposed to just us saying it.
I really like the offense and defense method. I love working on poking at OCD while it's sleeping. It makes it a little bit easier to do, and it's kind of fun. I'm planning on using it to work on my fear of holding or touching batteries and stuff like that.
So it was really helpful, and I think a lot of other kids would like it. I thought that I was the only one who had worrying about the weather and stuff. And then there was somebody else on there who worried about the same thing, which was really helpful.
Seems less scary to work on stuff now that I've watched this class, and I'm more interested to work on it.
I like trying to do more exposures still, and before I wasn't, I just didn't want to do them.
I've worked on some of my bigger compulsions and been successful.
I realised that it was helpful to do the exposures. before it was like really, really hard. It's still hard, but it's helpful to know that I need to do them.
Before there would be a lot of battles about it, so it is definitely less loggerheads.
Really, really good course and super helpful.
Definitely would recommend this. It's really easy to follow. It's nice bite-sized videos. I really like the worksheets that go along with it, and I think it's really helpful.
To learn more about this course and register your child or teen, go to atparentingsurvivalschool.com.
Welcome back. Okay, so in the first half of this podcast, we talked about the benefits of just Inside Out 2 in general. I mean, I actually just want to add one more. I really do feel like it normalizes anxiety in general. So I think more people are going to be able to identify, oh my gosh, I have anxiety living in me too. I know what that feels like. So I do feel like we're going to see more people recognizing anxiety, not feeling shamed or embarrassed to say they have anxiety. So the stigma aspect, it's really good when we have these major films talking about things that we all struggle with on some level. Okay, but let's take it one step further. So one thing that you can do with your kids if they liked the film and they're up to it, I wouldn't force any of this stuff, but this is just how to catapult the film further. I might say to your child, if they have OCD, I might say, I wonder what OCD would look like. What would that character look like? We know what anxiety looks like, right? Anxiety at first seemed really, really helpful. And in fact, when I was watching the film, I was like rooting for anxiety, even though I knew anxiety wasn't like the best thing in the world, obviously. I was like, you guys need to listen to anxiety. I mean, that just shows you how anxious of a person I am. Everything that anxiety was saying in the beginning, I was like, anxiety's right. But then anxiety takes it and goes way too far and sabotages things. And I think that does really well with the analogy of anxiety, that anxiety is really trying to protect you. And it's overthinking things and over planning and overdoing. And eventually it paralyzes you. And it was interesting because in the film, anxiety literally like freezes. It's like in this frantic, frenzied freeze and is paralyzed, like literally. And I found that to be a really interesting metaphor, you know, for how anxiety does impact us. OCD would probably be a different character, right? Because I don't see, and I don't talk to kids about OCD being this protective, helpful thing in our brain that is trying to look out for us, but it just doesn't know how to do it. I feel like anxiety is what the way I equate anxiety typically when I'm talking to kids and families is anxiety is like an overreactive lifeguard. It's trying to help us, but it just isn't well trained and it thinks everything's an emergency. And so it takes situations that aren't a big deal and it makes them a big deal. It doesn't know how to categorize things. OCD is different. One, it impacts a different part of the brain and it shows up differently and it gets people stuck. And it's not always looking out for our best interest, depending on your OCD theme. And so that analogy to me doesn't work well with OCD because I can have intrusive thoughts that I want to inappropriately touch my dog. And that's an OCD theme. Is that really trying to help me? When OCD is like, ew, you're inappropriately touching your dog. Ew, you want to do weird things with your dog. You know what? You shouldn't touch your dog. You should move away from your dog. Or intrusive thoughts that are like not aligned with my belief system at all. Like, you want to do blah, blah, blah. And so sometimes with OCD themes, we can see where the analogy of like it trying to protect you can be helpful. Like, oh, it doesn't want you to get sick. And so it's telling you that everything's contaminated. It's looking out for your best interest. But OCD themes morph and shift, and they can easily move into other nonsensical, intrusive thoughts that don't make sense. I think you ran over someone. I think you're going to stab your parent with that knife that you're holding. Like lots of things that are upsetting that are not aligned and are not even on their radar. And so that's how anxiety and OCD are so different. So what would this OCD character look like in your child's mind? Could they draw it if they're artistic? What would, could they write like a screenplay if they're creative and they like to write? Tap into their skills. If they're into video games, what does this video game character look like? If they're into Legos, could they build it with their Legos? Get them to be creative or they can even just talk to you about it or do a puppet show about it. if they're older, they could just talk to you about it. What would your OCD character look like? So if you have a 15-year-old, you could talk to them like this and say, what would your OCD look like? And I feel like in Inside Out 2, the characters are all named just their emotions, so they don't have really like fun creative names like Bob or Bossy. You can add that, but you might go into, well, this character called OCD is as paranoid and is bossy and is angry and is insistent and annoying, right? And so it's different than anxiety. So that would be interesting. Also, could they create a character that's not Joy? So Joy, I feel like there needs to be another character in there that they can kind of tap into when OCD takes control. And I thought a character like Brave or Strong, I think I like the word brave better. And I wonder if you have a child or teenager that is willing to go down this road with you, you could say, and I wonder if you had a character that was like brave, or if they have another word, add the other word. And this is a character that isn't afraid of standing up to OCD. Maybe Joy is afraid of OCD and Fear is afraid of OCD, right? And all these other characters in Inside Out are afraid of OCD because OCD is like so domineering and over the top and scares everybody. But Brave is the one character that can calm OCD down and isn't afraid of challenging OCD. And Brave could be like, look, OCD, you can't get near the controls. We just can't trust you. And everyone else is like, well, maybe OCD, has a point, or maybe if we just listen to OCD, it will go away. Like OCD is demanding to just have control over, there's like a control board in Inside Out. And I love that because I feel like it's just such a great metaphor. And so maybe the other characters are like, just let OCD have control for 5 minutes. OCD only wants to touch the controls, and then said that he would go away. So just let him have it. And Brave is like, no, we can't. We have to just let OCD have a tantrum in the corner, because if we let OCD have controls, it will never want to give them up. And then maybe OCD can magnify or grow bigger physically, or twins start popping up and they get stronger if OCD is allowed to have control. You can get really creative with this. So what would the screenplay look like if OCD was around? The other thing is, maybe when your child is trying to resist an OCD compulsion, they can now have a visualization of what it looks like in their brain. Does OCD look like this domineering, horrible character that's trying to take over the controls? And Brave is there trying to calm OCD down and calm you down. And so when they're feeling like the urge to wash their hands, they can see OCD struggling to get control or tapping at the controls. And that might be a really empowering visual of, I'm not a puppet. OCD is at the control. I need to help Brave and not do what OCD wants me to do. So you can see where this could really be helpful. The other thing that they do in the movie that I think is actually interesting is they try to, at the end, they take care of anxiety. So anxiety gets really revved up, and then they kind of baby anxiety. And they put anxiety in a recliner, they give anxiety tea and calming music, and they just kind of separate out anxiety and say, here, you go sit over here while we take over controls. And I love that, because when we talk about anxiety, we are talking about, our overprotective lifeguard and the need to maybe baby him and be like, look, I know you're worried, but we've got this. It's okay. You sit here and you relax and you be calm, and we're going to take over. We've got this. Trust us. And so that can be a really helpful visual for people with anxiety. And for OCD, I feel like they would handle the OCD character in a different way. And so how would they handle their OCD? He is bossy and he is not looking out for your best interest. He is not satiated or happy with a cup of tea or with a recliner. He needs to be contained. So maybe the others put him in another room, or what do they do with him to handle OCD? That might be something that you explore with your child and what that would look like for them. And every kid is different. I mean, I've worked with kids where they would be like, let's tie him up. And I have other kids who really feel empathetic they're like super sensitive, kind-hearted kids, and they don't even want to be mean to OCD. And so that doesn't work for them. So they might tell all the other characters to put headphones on and not listen to OCD. So they're not being actually cruel to OCD. You really want to use whatever your child's personality is and tap into that. And that's okay. That'll look different for each kid. And then for all of these things, can they draw them out, or can they act out these scenes in their mind even? The other thing that I think is really interesting, well, we'll get to that in a second. One other thing I want to say about anxiety is, and OCD, but with OCD, there's a little bit more work to be done because we want to create the OCD character and we want to create how the other characters are going to handle OCD. So there's a lot more creating around OCD when we're taking this one step further. For anxiety, it's all there already in the movie. So all you really need to do with your child is say, what does your anxiety want to control? What does your anxiety tell everybody else in your mind? And I like using the word mind versus brain. I feel like brain can be scary. Like I have all these characters in my brain, or my brain's not in control. Versus mind, I feel like it might be semantics, but I feel like that's a little bit softer way to talk about it. And so you might say, like, what does your anxiety in your mind say to you? What kind of controls does it want to take over? What things is it trying to protect you from that you don't need protecting from? And with OCD, we have to kind of create OCD first and then talk about what are the things that OCD is nagging you about currently, right? And these are the themes. You could even incorporate the core memories. So in Inside Out 2, they have these core memories, like these threads that grown by her core. She's having core memories, and then core beliefs are coming up from those core memories. And so they're creating core beliefs like, I am a kind person, I'm a caring person. And then as anxiety and all these other emotions start to take over, and she has bad experiences, some core beliefs are bad, like I need to be in hockey in order to be liked, or I am a liar. And so they don't have that one, but we can incorporate those with anxiety and OCD, depending on what struggles our kids are having. So for social anxiety, I feel like those core beliefs, that would be really, really helpful to say, what is anxiety? And maybe if your child has social anxiety, you actually develop a character that has social anxiety and not just anxiety. So even more specific. And that character might look a little bit different than anxiety did. And it might speak a bit different than anxiety did. But what core beliefs are being grown from social anxiety throwing down memories into that bank that really don't need to be there? And so you can identify those core beliefs, like I'm not enough. I need other people to like me in order to be good enough, or I need to look pretty enough so that people will accept me. And so we can, instead of a boring worksheet, we can talk to our kids and say, what do you think some of your social anxiety core beliefs are that are popping up? And what are your core beliefs? And this we could do with anxiety and OCD. What are your core beliefs that no matter what, they shine bright? They're these beautiful threads and nobody can rip them down. What are those? And we all have some core beliefs and some core love of ourselves that nobody can take away from us. So identifying those is really, really helpful and therapeutic. Now, when we sprinkle in OCD, especially moral and harm OCD themes, we can kind of visualize in that analogy how with moral OCD, that OCD is trying to ruin our core beliefs. And maybe we add on to the story that OCD is like going down to the water of where the core beliefs are and is polluting it with lies of you're a liar, or you might do bad things, or you might harm people. And there are these like fake strands of core beliefs that are pulling up that confuse the mind. And the mind is like, there are these beautiful golden ones that are the true essence of who you are. And then there's these lying ones that are not real strings, that are pretty easily broken, that OCD is growing. What a really helpful metaphor. So that when you have an intrusive thought that says, oh my gosh, you might do this bad thing, You're like, no, I'm going back to my core beliefs. I know who I am. I'm not going to argue with OCD, because if I argue with OCD gets to be in control more. The more I talk directly to OCD, the more OCD is at the helm. And so I'm going to just talk to Brave and be like, oh, we know what our core beliefs are. We don't have to convince OCD. OCD doesn't care about what my core beliefs are. And so I'm not going to give it any attention or energy. I love that. So I'm hoping this is just giving you some inspiration of where you can go with the analogies, metaphors, and foundational storyline of Inside Out. So fantastic. There's so many ways that you can use this therapeutically as a parent, for your own inner work and your inner child, and if you're a therapist, in your practice. So I hope that I gave a little spark of creativity for you. I hope that you're finding my podcast helpful. If you're finding it helpful, don't forget to hit a star wherever you consume your podcast and leave a review. I greatly appreciate that when you do that. I'll be back next Tuesday for a new topic. Don't forget to find the sparkle in everything you do, and I'll see you then. Take care. Oh, and don't forget to sign up for the free series. Forgot to mention that at atparentingsurvivalseries.com. Let's talk about self-care and anchor you so you can be an anchor for your child. Don't forget to sign up at atparentingsurvivalseries.com. I'll see you over there. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the AT Parenting Survival Podcast. To get additional support raising a child with anxiety or OCD, visit Natasha's online school of on-demand classes at atparentingsurvivalschool.com.